Maybe just to complete this, you will see in the last 2 pages that the SAPS does indeed respond, and now we know Mr. Manilal and Idac have the names of the people that effected the arrest. You see that at page 3532 and 3533. So whatever purpose he sought these names for, he has now been given the names, and maybe he'll come and tell us what he did with the names. Okay, thank you.
And having worked through these documents, did it happen often when you were the ID that investigations are initiated without your knowledge? You will recall that, I think when we started our engagement last week, I had expressed a concern that it sounds like everyone within Idac was on a frolic of his own and running their own show. And this is one such case that brings that to the fore. I want to know, are there many of such, to your knowledge, that are perhaps lying about in Idac? If this particular summons is anything to go by, I would suggest that they should be.
In all fairness, Chair, there's the teams work within a very structured approach with their matters. They won't come to me with every section 28, but the 28 has to have purpose, and I haven't stumbled across one where even when we have a discussion, then it's out of sync. Sometimes they may have asked for something extra or something less, but it is within the framework of what they were allowed to ask in order to further that investigation. And where I have to make a slight qualification is, I'm not sure what drove this, and so they would have to answer, why would we need that information? Where does it take the Adams complaints, regardless of whether we've put them now to the side and whether the Section 27 is substantial, insubstantial? What will we do with this? What do we do with this?
Where could it possibly take the Adams complaint?
Nowhere. As we have it,
yes.
Nowhere. And that's why I'm saying, they've now, Commissioner Baloy has shown at the last 2 pages, having all these names and knowing whether approval was granted or not, knowing whether it cost 5 cents or 5,000 rands, does not take the Adams matter or matters any further than before he got arrested.
And knowing who from PKTT effected the arrest as well.
Yes.
Doesn't take
the matter any further.
No, so is it your testimony to this commission that this actually was the first time such occurred? Can you confidently say so? And if the answer is potentially yes, what would give them, should I say, the strength or the bravery to do just what they did in May 2026? How do you land there as the ID? And I will add to that, if I may. You've been an ID for a few years. If you were in office, what would be the consequences of this?
Well, first of all, they would have to explain why they went off investigation. They'd have to show where it was in the investigation plan.
And where does that help you if they've gone off investigation?
And if they have gone off investigation, then steps would have to be taken because... No,
sorry, I apologize. You start by saying why they went off investigation, and I'm saying the why is irrelevant. As based on your and my discussion, we've established that there was no such investigation that can justify this summons. Now, I'm interested in consequence management.
So in terms of the consequence management, either I'd have to first determine if this was the first time, and hope to God that it is. But if it is, then it is a matter of him being given a written warning, or this actually, in this way, and now that we do have the Idac judge, is to perhaps refer it there because this is irregular and unprocedural in the manner in which it was done. It didn't have we kept talking about the Section 27 as a basis for things. Where's the basis for this? So what is the process you follow when you don't have a basis? And why did you embark then on a process that isn't allowed when you do not have a registered, whether it is an inquiry or an investigation or an authorized matter? And that would be something that would have to be escalated for an investigation outside of the framework of Idac, which is the Idac judge.
Is the truth
Sorry.
Without taking issue with Ms. Silo's focus, I want to suggest to you that the why is actually relevant because these many, and underline many, departures from the norm may actually be symptomatic of improper motives on the part of Idac. Do you accept that suggestion?
I accept the suggestion.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And if I may just go back on what you said, is this a question of improper investigation or outright unlawful? It's an unlawful investigation, if not in terms of Section 27 and Section 28(1). We settled that on the first day. So how do you even suggest giving a written warning for unlawful conduct? Idac is a super powerful institution. It's the only institution in the country which has got the power to both investigate and prosecute.
That is why I corrected myself and said, actually, this matter must go to the Idac judge because you must first look at the basis, and there is no legitimate basis. Therefore, process of Idac has been deviated, and for the judge to then consider that.
Where is the ID in this? At which point the ID institutes at least disciplinary proceedings with a view to terminate the employment of these people who abuse the immense powers held by Idac to do what they did here in Section 28. Why must the judge deal with those issues?
So in terms of the disciplinary processes for Idac, they now resort under the judge. Judge will look at it. Judge can then recommend to the labor department. Ordinarily, Chair and Commissioners, we would send it to two places, Office of Ethics and Accountability and to the Labor, and they would run the parallel matter. With Idac, the Idac judge oversees the Idac staff. He is the first port of call. You refer matters to him. He can then decide, look, we're going to proceed on this part, look at criminality. In the meantime, Labor, you can institute action because this is clearly a labor issue, but it is looked at holistically, and the judge engages both the Office of Ethics and Accountability as well as labor. But he is the final arbiter and the conduit through which these matters go.
Can I just add that, you know, it's not just irregular, and I think you will agree with me, it's not just irregular, it is in fact an abuse of the Section 28(6) and 7 power and process. So it's much more serious than an irregularity. An irregularity can be, some irregularities can be condoned, can be excused with an "I'm sorry, you know, I misunderstood." But this is an outright abuse of a process that is prescribed by law for ulterior purposes. You accept that?
I accept that,
Yeah.
Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Baloy. And you, on your first day of testimony, you touched on this section, Section 29, capital A, which reads, an investigator may, subject to the control and direction of a head of an investigating directorate. In this instance, where is the ID's control and direction? When you have a patently unlawful Section 28, presumably informed by an unlawful investigation, and your solution is to direct it to the judge, where do you exercise that control and direction? Unless it has to then be accepted that that investigation was done, that unlawful investigation was initiated and implemented with the concurrence of the ID. Because the solution that you offer somehow takes the head of the investigating directorate out of the picture and absolves them of responsibility. Yet the very section you relied upon, I think on your first day, section 29, capital A sub 1, says every investigator may, subject to the control and direction of the head. Where do we find that control?
In this instance, we cannot look for the control of the investigating director because it is done without the knowledge of the investigating director. So I had no control over this situation.
So the ID failed to exercise control over the institution?
The ID cannot fail to exercise control over that which she did not know. It has now come to my attention, and then we exercise control in the manner in which I suggested, Commissioners, that it then be escalated to the Idac judge.
Okay, I would like to move off this topic to a slightly different one, and for that purpose, I would invite us to go to file 3, where